The morning shift on Kepler 442 began like any other. Sarah Mitchell kissed her daughter goodbye and headed to the mining complex. Her husband packed lunches for the children. In the residential dome, families prepared for another day of routine work. The colony had been there for 8 years, carving out a life on the distant moon. 3,000 people called it home. Nobody noticed the Vaxilor warships until they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. By then, it was already too late. The first missiles struck the main dome at 0723 station time. The protective shield, designed to deflect space debris, shattered like glass against military-grade weapons. Atmosphere vented into space within seconds. The second wave targeted the residential areas. The third hit the schools. It lasted 11 minutes. When the Vaxilor ships departed, Kepler 442 was silent. Every structure lay in ruins. Every person was dead. The colony simply ceased to exist. On the Vaxilor command ship, War Master Thexelon reviewed the mission results with satisfaction. His intelligence reports indicated the human colony housed weapons research facilities. The strike was necessary, he told himself. A message to the Galactic Concord that the Vaxilor hegemony would not tolerate threats along their borders. Broadcast our statement, Thexelon ordered his communications officer. Make it clear this was a defensive action against human military expansion. The message went out across galactic channels. The Vaxilor expected protests. They anticipated diplomatic outrage. Ancient species like the Talveen or the Mothers of Andros would condemn the violence. Humans would file complaints with the Concord. Sanctions might follow. Perhaps trade restrictions, that was the normal pattern. That was how civilized species conducted themselves in the modern galaxy. Instead, there was silence. Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Concord, Marcus Webb, received the news in his quarters on the Concord station. He was a career diplomat, 63 years old with a lifetime spent building bridges between humanity and the stars. He had 3 grandchildren. 2 of them had been visiting their aunt on Kepler 442. Webb sat at his desk for 20 minutes without moving. His assistant knocked twice, received no answer, and left him alone. Finally, Webb stood and walked to the Concord chambers. The gathered species expected tears, rage, perhaps demands for justice. Webb's face showed nothing. He approached the central podium where representatives from 200 civilizations waited. The Vaxilor hegemony has destroyed our colony on Kepler 442d, Webb said, his voice steady. 3,000 human civilians are dead. Earth will respond. This session is adjourned. He turned and walked out. The chamber erupted in confusion. Respond? How? Humanity barely had a military. They were newcomers, only 15 years in the Concord. Their defense fleet consisted of perhaps 24 ships, modest vessels designed for patrol and escort duties. Council Arbiter Velnara, a being who had lived for over 1,000 years, watched Webb leave. She had seen many species come and go. She had witnessed wars that burned entire star systems. Something about the human ambassador's calm troubled her deeply. Someone should warn the Vaxilor, she said quietly to her aide. Warn them? Of what? The humans have no significant military force. Velnara's ancient eyes reflected memories of species past. I have studied human history. They joined the Concord claiming they wanted peace. But their past, she shook her head. Their planet nearly destroyed itself a dozen times. They invented weapons that could end all life on their world. Then they chose not to use them. A species that masters such violence and restrains it. They are the most dangerous kind. You believe they are a threat? I believe the Vaxilor made a terrible mistake. They killed human children. They attacked the innocent. And now humanity is silent. Velnara stood slowly. Silence before action is more frightening than rage. Rage is loud and passes quickly. But cold, calculated silence? That is when decisions are made that change everything. The aide did not understand, but he would. The entire galaxy would. On Earth, the silence was deceptive. Behind closed doors in secured military facilities, humanity moved with purpose. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the Strategic Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's entire fleet disposition. Recall every ship, she ordered. Military, civilian, corporate, private. I want everything that can move in space assembled within 72 hours. Admiral, the Concord regulations state. I don't care about Concord regulations. Chen's voice cut through the protest. 3,000 of our people were murdered, families, children. We extended our hand in peace for 15 years. The Vaxilor struck it with fire. Now they learn what happens next. Around Earth, ships began to move. Cargo haulers changed course. Mining vessels abandoned their operations. Tourist ships canceled their routes. Every human-flagged vessel in space received the same coded message. Come home. Now. The movement did not go unnoticed. Other species tracked the convergence with growing confusion. Why were humans gathering their ships? Were they evacuating? Preparing to flee Vaxilor aggression? Then the conversions began. In shipyards across Earth's solar system, civilian vessels underwent rapid modifications. Mining lasers designed to cut through asteroids were recalibrated. Cargo holds were reinforced. Navigation systems received military-grade upgrades. Hulls built for durability suddenly bristled with weapons. The galaxy discovered something the Concord had never fully understood. When humanity joined the galactic community, they had agreed to limit military expansion. They signed treaties promising peaceful exploration. But humans were clever. They had built their entire civilian infrastructure with dual purposes in mind. Every mining ship could become a warship. Every cargo hauler could carry troops. Every colony vessel was designed to convert for combat operations. For 15 years, humanity had followed the rules, while quietly preparing for the possibility that the rules would not protect them. The Vaxilor intelligence services finally recognized the truth 3 days after the Kepler 442 attack. Their analysts watched human ship movements with growing alarm. War Master, we have a problem, the intelligence director reported to Thexelon. Human vessels are not fleeing. They are gathering. Our estimates of human military capability were significantly incorrect. Thexelon studied the reports. Numbers that should have shown 24 military ships instead showed hundreds, thousands, and more were converting every hour. How is this possible? The Concord regulations? They complied with regulations technically, but their civilian fleet was militarized from the beginning. Every ship they built, every vessel they launched, it was all designed to serve dual purposes. Thexelon felt the first whisper of doubt. They cannot match our fleet. We have numerical superiority. In pure warships, yes. But War Master, look at this data. Human manufacturing capacity has shifted entirely to war production. Their industrial output rivals species that have been building for centuries. And their training programs, the director's voice faltered. Apparently every human colonist receives combat training. It is part of their culture. They call it tradition. The War Master pulled up historical files on humanity. What he read made his blood cold. The wars, the weapons, the systematic efficiency with which humans had once killed each other. Billions dead in conflicts spanning millennia. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, chemical agents. A species that had developed hundreds of ways to end life and had used them all at some point in their history. Then suddenly they had stopped. United their world. Reached for the stars claiming they had evolved past violence. But evolution did not erase capability. It only restrained it. Send envoys, Thexelon ordered. Open diplomatic channels. Offer reparations for the unfortunate misunderstanding at Kepler 442d. The message was sent. Earth's response came within the hour. It was not from Ambassador Webb or any diplomatic office. Admiral Chen's face appeared on screens across Vaxilor space. Her message was 3 sentences long. You killed our children. You murdered the innocent. Now you learn why humanity chose peace, because our alternative is something you cannot imagine. The transmission ended. Humanity's fleet began to move. The galaxy held its breath. And the Vaxilor hegemony realized they had not destroyed a research facility. They had awakened something far worse. A species that knew exactly how to wage war and had spent 15 years hoping they would never need to remember. The Concord Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member species packed the observation galleries, watching the main floor where Ambassador Webb stood alone at the human podium. 5 days had passed since Kepler 442'd. 5 days of human silence while their fleet grew. Arbiter Velnara called the session to order. Ambassador Webb, the Council requests clarification on human military activities. Your fleet movements violate several Concord regulations regarding, with respect. Arbiter, we are withdrawing from those regulations. Webb's voice remained calm, but every being in the chamber felt the shift. Humanity joined the Concord in good faith. We limited our military as requested. We followed every rule, and when a member species murdered 3,000 of our people, the Concord did nothing. Investigations take time, a Talvine representative protested. Due process requires due process. Webb turned to face the speaker. Tell me, how long does due process take when children are vaporized? My grandchildren died on Kepler 442. They were 6 and 8 years old. Should I wait for due process while their killers celebrate their defensive strike? The chamber fell silent. Webb continued. Humanity came to the stars hoping we had left our violent past behind. We wanted to believe civilization had evolved beyond such things. The Vaxilor have taught us that lesson was premature. So now Earth responds the only way we know guarantees such attacks will not happen again. And what response is that? Velnara asked, though she already knew. Total war, Webb replied simply. The Vaxilor hegemony will cease to exist as a threat. We will dismantle their military capability completely, and we will do it in a manner that ensures every species in this chamber understands the cost of attacking human civilians. The chamber erupted. Species shouted over each other. Threats of sanctions, demands for human restraint, warnings about violating conquered law. Webb waited for the noise to subside. We are not seeking your permission, he said finally. We are informing you as a courtesy. Humanity is at war. Stay out of our way. He left the chamber. Behind him, the conquered descended into chaos. On Earth, the transformation was complete. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UHNS Defiance, humanity's new flagship. Assembled around Earth were 300 warships, everything from converted mining vessels to purpose-built destroyers that had been under construction in hidden shipyards. But that was just the first wave. Throughout human space, more ships prepared. The galaxy had assumed humanity's industrial capacity was modest, focused on peaceful colonization. They were wrong. The truth was, humanity had been building infrastructure at a staggering pace. Automated factories on dozens of worlds, mining operations that extracted resources at levels that seemed excessive for peaceful purposes. The conquered had noticed but assumed humans were simply enthusiastic and inefficient. Instead, humanity had been preparing. Not for conquest, but for survival. A species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times learned to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Admiral, all fleet elements report ready, her tactical officer announced. Chen looked at the display showing Vaxilor space. Somewhere in that territory, War Master Thexlon was preparing his defense. He commanded a fleet of over 1,200 ships built by a civilization that had mastered space warfare for centuries. His forces outnumbered humanity's 4-1. In conventional thinking, the Vaxilor held every advantage. More ships, more experience, better technology in many areas. Their war doctrine had been tested in dozens of conflicts. They knew how to fight, but they had never fought humans. Execute Phase 1, Chen ordered. The human fleet split into a dozen groups and jumped to faster than light. When they emerged, they were not attacking Vaxilor military targets. Instead, they struck communication relays, sensor stations, and logistics hubs. Nothing that would cause civilian casualties, but everything that would blind and confuse the Vaxilor military. War Master Thexelon watched reports flood his command center. Humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck and vanished. His fleet attempted to respond, but every time they jumped to intercept, the humans were gone. What are they doing? His second demanded. This is not a battle plan. It is chaos. No, Thexelon said slowly, recognizing something in the pattern. It is hunting. They are hurting us. Making us react instead of act, he was right. Human tactics did not follow conquered war doctrines. There were no honorable fleet engagements, no formal challenges, no agreed-upon rules of combat. Instead, humans fought like they had on Earth for thousands of years, with deception, misdirection, and psychological warfare. Vaxilor commanders found their communications jammed with false orders. Ships received contradictory instructions. Sensor data became unreliable as humans deployed countermeasures the Vaxilor had never encountered. Entire battle groups became isolated, cut off from support, easy targets for the smaller but incredibly coordinated human forces. The galaxy watched in shock. Intelligence agencies scrambled to understand how newcomers were outmaneuvering an established military power. The answer, when they found it, was disturbing. Humanity had spent 10,000 years perfecting warfare on themselves. Every tactic the Vaxilor knew, humans had invented, countered, and improved upon centuries ago. Guerrilla warfare, information operations, strategic deception, Humans had refined these arts in countless conflicts before even reaching space. And there was something else. Something that frightened even the ancient species watching from afar. Humans accepted casualties in ways no other species did. When a Vaxilor ship damaged a human vessel, the expected response was withdrawal for repairs. Instead, human crews would ram the enemy ship, board it, and fight through the corridors with small arms. Battles that should have ended in mutual destruction became human victories, because human crews simply refused to give up. Talveen military analyst provided a report to the Conquered that spread through every species intelligence service. Humans have a concept they call acceptable losses. It means they will willingly sacrifice their own people if it achieves the mission objective. This is not desperation or fanaticism. It is calculated tactical thinking. They weigh the value of lives against mission success and sometimes choose the mission. We have not seen this mentality in civilized warfare for thousands of years. It is terrifying. 3 weeks into the conflict, the Vaxilor fleet remained numerically superior. They had lost perhaps 100 ships while destroying only 20 human vessels. By the numbers, they were winning, but War Master Thexilon knew better. His forces were scattered, demoralized, and reactive. Human ships appeared wherever they were least expected. His commanders reported strange incidents. Human vessels broadcasting their positions as bait, only to spring ambushes when Vaxilor ships responded. Psychological warfare messages describing Vaxilor battle plans in detail, proving humans had infiltrated their communications completely. And then there were the rumors. Stories from border worlds of human operatives on the ground, recruiting Vaxilor dissidents, spreading propaganda, turning civilian populations against the war. Humans were not just fighting a military campaign. They were undermining the entire hegemony from within. "Sir, we have a priority message from the homeworld," his communications officer reported, voice shaking. Thexilon read it and felt his confidence crumble. The message was from human sources, somehow broadcast directly into Vaxilor government channels. It contained detailed plans for an assault on the hegemony's main shipyards. The attack was scheduled for 36 hours from now. The routes were specified. The forces were listed. Everything was provided in perfect detail. "It is a trap," his second said immediately. "They want us to move our fleet to defend the shipyards." "Of course it is a trap," Thexilon agreed. "But what choice do we have? If we do not defend the shipyards and the attack is real, we lose our ability to replace ships. If we defend and it is a feint, we waste resources and fall into whatever ambush they have planned." He stared at the message, understanding suddenly what humanity was doing. They were not just fighting a war. They were breaking his will to fight. Every decision became impossible. Every choice led to potential disaster. The psychological pressure was unbearable. "Ready the fleet," he ordered. "We defend the shipyards, and we pray the humans make a mistake." But Admiral Chen did not make mistakes. Her entire career had been built on preparation and precision. As the Vaxilor fleet moved to defend their shipyards, human forces struck 3 major military bases on the opposite side of hegemony space. They had given the Vaxilor the truth about one operation while concealing 3 others. The bases fell within hours. Thousands of Vaxilor military personnel were captured, not killed. Humans separated military from civilians with precision, holding soldiers according to Concord prisoner protocols while allowing civilians to leave unharmed. And everywhere humans went, they left messages. On data networks, on broadcast channels, on physical signs posted in occupied facilities. The same message in Vaxilor language: "We do not want your territory. We do not seek to enslave you. We want only one thing: an end to your military's threat to human lives. Surrender now and rebuild in peace. Continue fighting and we will dismantle everything you have built. Choose wisely." 6 weeks into the war, the Vaxilor hegemony's military structure was collapsing. Not from overwhelming force, but from something far more insidious. They could not predict what humans would do next. War Master Thexilon sat in his command center, surrounded by tactical displays showing red markers across hegemony space. Each marker represented a human attack, a disrupted supply line, or a compromised facility. The pattern made no sense according to traditional warfare doctrine. Humans struck valuable targets and worthless ones with equal intensity. They captured some positions and abandoned others. They seemed to be everywhere simultaneously. "Sir, intelligence reports another data breach," his security chief announced. Humans have accessed our personnel files again. They know the names, families, and positions of every officer in the fleet. Thexelon felt cold. This was not just warfare. This was systematic dismantling of his ability to command. Human psychological operations broadcast messages to individual Vaxilor officers, mentioning their families by name, asking them to consider whether the war was worth their children's future. The messages were not threats, they never threatened civilians, but the implications were clear. Humans knew everything. How are they doing this? Thexelon demanded. Our encryption is military grade, designed by the best. Sir, the security chief interrupted quietly. I think they are better. Human computer systems are different, more advanced in ways our analysts do not understand. They crack our codes faster than we can generate new ones. Thexelon wanted to deny it, but the evidence was overwhelming. Humanity had been in space for barely 2 centuries. The Vaxilor had mastered it for millennia. Yet somehow these newcomers had leapfrogged technological development in key areas. The truth, which Vaxilor intelligence had finally discovered, was even more disturbing. Humanity had not spread into space until they had mastered certain technologies completely. While the Vaxilor had advanced gradually across many fields, humans had perfected specific areas before even leaving their planet. Computers, encryption, information warfare, and manufacturing automation. Earth had fought global wars with these tools long before building their first starship. They had brought those perfected weapons to the stars. War Master, we have movement, the tactical officer called out. Human fleet elements are converging on Sector 7. Thexelon studied the display. Sector 7 contained an agricultural world, Vax Prime Minor with a population of 2 million civilians. The planet had minimal military value but massive symbolic importance. It was where the hegemony's founding charter had been signed 600 years ago. They would not dare, Thexelon whispered. Attacking a civilian world would turn the entire galaxy against them. But even as he said it, doubt crept in. Would humans care about galactic opinion? They had already withdrawn from Concord regulations. Ambassador Webb had made it clear Earth was no longer seeking approval for their actions. Ready the defense fleet, Thexelon ordered. We cannot allow Vax Prime Minor to fall. Admiral Chen watched from the Defiance as Vaxilor ships rushed to defend their agricultural world. Her tactical display showed the enemy fleet moving exactly as predicted. Every ship, every formation. The Vaxilor were reacting again, dancing to humanity's tune. Admiral, they have taken the bait, her executive officer reported. All major fleet elements are moving to Vax Prime Minor. Good, Chen replied. Broadcast the message. Across every communication channel in Vaxilor space, human transmissions began. They showed the human fleet near Vax Prime Minor, broadcasting their exact positions, their formation, even their planned approach vectors. It seemed insane. Why would they give the enemy every advantage? War Master Thexelon saw the broadcasts and felt suspicion overwhelm his military instincts. It was too obvious. Humans had proven themselves masters of deception. This had to be a trap. Tactical analysis, he demanded. Assume everything they are broadcasting is designed to manipulate us. What is the real target? His analysts worked frantically. If the Vax Prime Minor attack was a feint, where was the real strike? The shipyards were defended. The homeworld had tripled the normal patrol. Supply depots were secured. Every valuable target had forces assigned. Sir, his chief analyst said slowly, there is no obvious alternative target. Unless what? Unless they actually plan to attack Vax Prime Minor. What if this is not about deception? What if they want us there? Thexelon stared at the displays. A trap within a trap within a trap. Humans were daring him to commit his forces, confident they could destroy his fleet even when he knew they were coming. The psychological warfare was masterful. Every option felt like a mistake. We have no choice, Thexelon decided. Commit the fleet, defend Vax Prime Minor, but stay alert for ambush. The Vaxilor fleet arrived at the agricultural world in full force. 800 ships, the largest concentration of hegemony military power in the war. They found the human fleet exactly where the broadcasts had indicated. 200 ships in a defensive formation around the planet. They are outnumbered. 4-1, the tactical officer reported with confusion. Why are they not retreating? Admiral Chen stood on the Defiance's bridge. watching the Vaxilor fleet move into position. Everything was proceeding perfectly. "All ships execute pattern Omega," she ordered calmly. The human fleet suddenly dispersed, ships breaking formation and scattering in what appeared to be panic. The Vaxilor fleet pursued, sensing victory. Their ships spread out to chase the fleeing humans. That was when the trap sprang. Hidden in the asteroid belt surrounding Vax Prime Minor were another 300 human ships, powered down and undetectable. Converted mining vessels, their hulls designed to blend with rock and ice. The moment the Vaxilor fleet scattered in pursuit, these hidden forces activated. Simultaneously, human ships that had seemed to flee reversed course with perfect coordination. The Vaxilor fleet found itself surrounded, their formations broken, their numerical advantage meaningless in the chaos of close-quarters combat. But that was only the first layer of the trap. Human hackers, who had spent weeks infiltrating Vaxilor systems, activated kill switches in enemy ships. Not all vessels, just enough. Targeting systems failed. Navigation went offline. Communications jammed. The Vaxilor fleet descended into disorder while human ships, operating with perfect coordination, picked targets methodically, and then came the boarding parties. Human Marines, equipped with armor and weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat, launched from assault ships. They breached Vaxilor hulls and fought through corridors with terrifying efficiency. Room by room, deck by deck. Every boarding action ended the same way. Vaxilor crews surrendering to humans who seemed unstoppable in close combat. The Battle of Vax Prime Minor lasted 8 hours. When it ended, the Vaxilor fleet had lost over 500 ships. 200 more were captured intact. The remainder fled in disorder. Human losses: 43 ships destroyed, 27 damaged beyond repair. By any calculation, the victory was impossible. Yet it happened. War Master Thexlon survived, his flagship one of the few that escaped. He sat in his command chair, staring at casualty reports that meant the end of everything. The Hegemony's fleet was shattered. Their military capability was broken, and the humans had done it with tactics he could not counter. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving a transmission from Admiral Chen." The human admiral appeared on screen. She looked tired but determined. "War Master Thexlon," Chen began, "I want you to understand something. We knew exactly where you would go. We knew exactly how you would react. We have been inside your systems for weeks, reading every order, every communication, every thought your command structure has had. You never had a chance because we have been 3 steps ahead since the beginning." Thexlon said nothing. What could he say? "I am telling you this not to gloat," Chen continued, "but so you understand why you must surrender. We can destroy what remains of your fleet. We can occupy your worlds. We can reduce the hegemony to rubble. But we do not want to. We want only one thing. Guarantee that you will never again attack human civilians. Surrender now. Accept conquered oversight. Rebuild your civilization without the military that made this war possible. Or continue fighting and lose everything." The transmission ended. Thexlon looked around his bridge at the officers who had followed him into this catastrophe. Young faces, believing in the hegemony's superiority, now they knew the truth. They had attacked a species they did not understand and paid a terrible price. "Open a channel to the Hegemony Council," Thexlon ordered quietly. Tell them we lost." Across the galaxy, species that had watched the war in fascination and horror came to a single conclusion. Humanity was not to be trifled with. Earth had been silent for 15 years, seeming weak and peaceful. But when provoked, when their innocent were killed, they had unleashed capabilities that shocked even ancient civilizations. The war was not over. The Vaxilor government refused Thexlon's surrender recommendation. Hardliners demanded continued resistance. But everyone knew the truth now. The hegemony could not win. It was only a matter of time. Admiral Chen addressed her fleet after the battle. 70 ships lost, thousands of crew dead. She read every name aloud, taking 3 hours to honor those who fell. Then she gave new orders. 6 months after the destruction of Kepler 442, the Vaxilor hegemony collapsed, not from a single decisive battle, but from the slow, systematic dismantling of everything that gave them power. Human forces had destroyed every shipyard, captured every major military installation, and occupied every strategic position in hegemony space. But they did not occupy the worlds themselves. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching reports from across former Vaxilor territory. Planets descended into chaos as the centralized government lost control. Regional governors declared independence. Some worlds celebrated liberation from military rule. Others feared what came next. Would humans colonize them, enslave the population? History suggested conquerors did not simply leave. "Admiral, we are receiving thousands of requests for assistance," her communications officer reported. Vaxilor worlds asking for food aid, medical supplies, infrastructure support. Their supply networks have collapsed. Chen nodded slowly. This was the moment that would define everything. The easy choice was occupation. The expected choice. The Vaxilor had attacked humanity without mercy. Justice suggested repaying that cruelty. Military doctrine suggested securing conquered territory. But Admiral Sarah Chen had not fought this war for conquest. She had fought it for 3,000 dead civilians who deserved better than living in a galaxy where such attacks went unpunished. "Send medical ships to worlds requesting aid," she ordered. "Food supplies, infrastructure repair equipment, everything they need to stabilize." Her executive officer looked shocked. "Admiral, we are giving them supplies? After what they did?" "After what their government did," Chen corrected. The civilians on those worlds did not order the attack on Kepler 442. They are victims of their own leadership's stupidity. We punished those responsible. We destroyed the military that enabled the attack. But we are not monsters. We do not make innocent people suffer for their leaders' crimes. Some will see this as weakness, the officer warned. Chen smiled grimly. "Let them. We have proven we are not weak. Now we prove we are not cruel. Prepare withdrawal orders for all human forces in Vaxilor space. We leave within the week." The orders went out. Human ships began pulling back from occupied positions. They left behind supplies, medical equipment, and detailed instructions for rebuilding infrastructure. But they took no territory, claimed no worlds, demanded no tribute. The galaxy watched in stunned disbelief. On the conquered station, Ambassador Webb prepared for what would likely be the most important speech of his career. The council chamber was packed beyond capacity. Every species wanted to hear humanity's demands. The conquering species always demanded something: territory, resources, tribute, political concessions. That was how war ended. Webb approached the podium, aware of thousands of eyes watching him. He thought of his grandchildren, of the 3,000 dead, of everything that had led to this moment. "Members of the Galactic Conquered," he began, his voice steady. "I stand before you to announce the end of Earth's war with the Vaxilor hegemony. Human forces are withdrawing from all occupied positions. We claim no territory. We demand no reparations. We seek no political control over former hegemony worlds." The chamber erupted. Species shouted questions, demanded explanations. This made no sense. Wars were fought for gain. Humanity had won completely and was walking away with nothing. Webb waited for silence. When it came, he continued. "Some of you believe we are showing weakness, that we lack the resolve to hold what we conquered. You are wrong. We are demonstrating something far more important: humanity's true nature." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We came to the stars hoping we had evolved past violence. For 15 years we proved we could be peaceful neighbors. Then the Vaxilor murdered 3,000 of our people, and you all wondered what humanity would do. Would we accept it? File diplomatic protests? Seek Concord arbitration?" Webb's voice hardened. "We did none of those things. Instead, we reminded the galaxy who we are, a species that spent 10,000 years perfecting warfare, a species that nearly destroyed ourselves with our capacity for violence, a species that learned through blood and fire how to fight, how to kill, how to win." He looked around the chamber, meeting eyes with representatives from dozens of species. "But we also learned something else. We learned why we fight. Not for conquest, not for glory, not for expansion. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We fight to ensure the innocent can live in peace, and when we win, we do not become the same kind of monsters we defeated." A Talvin representative stood. "Ambassador Webb, if you claim no territory and demand no tribute, what was the point of the war? What did humanity gain?" "We gained exactly what we sought," Webb replied. "The Vaxilor hegemony no longer exists as a threat. Their military is destroyed. Their aggressive government has collapsed. The species who thought they could attack humans with impunity learned the cost of that mistake. And every other species in this chamber learned something equally important. And what is that? The Tulvine asked. That humanity keeps its promises. We came to the stars promising we would be peaceful. We kept that promise for 15 years. But we also promised this. If you attack our innocent, if you murder our civilians, we will respond with everything we have. And when we win, not if, when, we will not be cruel in victory. We will give you the chance to rebuild, to do better, to learn from your mistakes. Webb pulled up a holographic display showing the Vaxilor worlds humanity was leaving behind. Medical ships delivering supplies, human engineers helping repair infrastructure, food shipments arriving on worlds facing starvation. This is humanity's true power, Webb said quietly. We can wage war with terrifying efficiency, but we can also show mercy to those who do not deserve it. We can extend help to enemies who tried to destroy us, because we remember what it was like to nearly destroy ourselves. We remember the cost of endless vengeance, and we choose differently. Council Arbiter Velnara stood, her ancient voice carrying across the chamber. Ambassador Webb speaks truth that many species have forgotten. War is easy. Destruction is simple. But building peace from the ashes of conflict? That requires true strength. She turned to address the full council. I have lived over 1,000 years. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have witnessed wars that burned galaxies. And I tell you now, humanity is the most dangerous species I have encountered. Not because of their capacity for violence, but because they understand when to use it and when to set it aside. They are dangerous because they can be both warriors and peacemakers, and they know which is needed at any moment. The chamber fell silent. Velnara continued. The Vaxilor attacked humanity believing they were weak. They learned they were wrong. But they also discovered humanity's true power, restraint, the ability to win completely and choose mercy. How many species here could do the same? How many would walk away from conquered territory? How many would help rebuild an enemy that tried to destroy them? Nobody answered. The silence spoke volumes. Webb concluded his address with words that would be repeated across the galaxy for generations. Humanity came to the stars hoping we had left war behind. The Vaxilor forced us to remember who we were, but we also remembered who we want to be. We are not conquerors. We are not empire builders. We are simply a species trying to live in peace, who will fight with everything we have when peace is denied to us. And when we win, we will always offer our defeated enemy the same chance we gave ourselves after our worst wars. The opportunity to rebuild, to do better, to choose peace. He gathered his materials and prepared to leave. But before he did, he delivered one final message. This is humanity's promise to the galactic conquered. We will always extend friendship first. We will always seek peace first. We will always try diplomacy first. But if you force us to war, we will win, and then we will help you rebuild. Because we believe civilizations can change. We believe species can learn from mistakes. And we believe the galaxy is better when we all choose peace. Webb left the chamber. Behind him, the Concord dissolved into discussion that lasted for days. Some species saw humanity's mercy as weakness and thought they could exploit it. Those species were fools. Others understood the true message. Humanity was offering a bargain. Live in peace and they would be the best neighbors imaginable. But attack them, attack their innocent, and face consequences that would end civilizations. On Earth, Admiral Chen received orders to return home. Her fleet began the journey back to human space, leaving the Vaxilor to determine their own future. As the Defiance jumped to faster-than-light travel, Chen thought about the cost. Over 3,000 dead on Kepler 442d. Another 5,000 military personnel lost in the war. 8,000 people who would never go home. But millions of humans would now live in a galaxy that understood the cost of attacking them. Thousands of Vaxilor civilians were alive because humanity had chosen mercy over vengeance. The balance was not equal. Nothing could bring back the dead, but it was better than the alternative. Admiral, her communications officer called out. We are receiving a transmission from Vax Prime, the former hegemony capital. Chen accepted the transmission. A Vaxilor civilian appeared on screen, an elderly female who spoke in heavily accented human language. 5 years after the destruction of Kepler 442, the galaxy had changed in ways nobody predicted. The Vaxilor hegemony was gone, replaced by the Vaxilor Federation, a democratic union of worlds that governed themselves with elected councils. The transformation had been difficult, marked by internal conflicts and growing pains. But the new government had survived. On a cold morning on Vax Prime, former War Master Thexlon stood in his prison cell, watching the sunrise through reinforced glass. He had been tried by his own people for war crimes, convicted of ordering the attack that killed 3,000 humans, and sentenced to life imprisonment. The irony was not lost on him. He was judged by Vaxilor, using human concepts of justice and law. "You have a visitor," a guard announced. Thexlon turned, expecting another journalist seeking an interview for the endless retrospectives on the war. Instead, Admiral Sarah Chen walked into the visiting area. She wore civilian clothes, not military uniform. She looked older, tired, but her eyes still held the same determination he remembered from their final communication 5 years ago. They sat across from each other in silence for a moment. Finally, Thexlon spoke. "Why are you here, Admiral? To gloat over your victory?" "No," Chen replied simply. "I came to ask you a question. Do you understand now? Do you understand what you unleashed when you attacked Kepler 442? Thexlon laughed bitterly. "I understand. I underestimated your species. I thought humans were weak because you chose peace. I was wrong. That is not what I asked," Chen pressed. "Do you understand why we responded the way we did?" Thexlon thought back to those terrible months. The systematic destruction of everything he had built. The psychological warfare, the precision strikes, the overwhelming force that made resistance futile. "You wanted to ensure no species would ever attack humans again," he said finally. "Partly," Chen agreed. "But there was more. We wanted the galaxy to understand something fundamental about humanity. We came to the stars hoping we had evolved past our violent nature. We wanted to believe civilization had reached a point where such things as massacring civilians was impossible. You proved we were naive. But we also proved something in return." "What?" "That humanity can choose restraint even in victory. That we can be terrible in war and merciful in peace. That we remember our own history of near self-destruction and try to help others avoid our mistakes." Chen leaned forward. "Your mistake was not attacking us because you thought we were weak. Your mistake was not understanding that our weakness was actually our greatest strength." Thexlon frowned, confused. Chen explained. "We choose peace because we know the alternative. We have fought wars that killed billions. We have seen what happens when violence becomes the only answer. So we restrain ourselves. We extend hands in friendship even to those who tried to destroy us. But that restraint is not weakness. It is wisdom bought with the blood of our ancestors. And when someone like you mistakes wisdom for weakness, they learn the hard way." "So you came here to teach me philosophy?" Thexlon asked bitterly. "No, I came to tell you that your people are rebuilding. They are creating something better than the hegemony ever was. And you sitting in this cell are part of why that is possible. You serve as a reminder of what happens when leaders choose aggression over wisdom. Your people look at you and remember what they lost because of decisions like yours. That memory keeps them on a better path." Chen stood to leave. At the door she paused. "One more thing. I lost family on Kepler 442. My cousin and her 2 children. I could hate you for that. Part of me does. But I also understand you were a product of a system that valued military power over wisdom. That system is gone now. Your people have learned. That does not bring my family back, but it means they did not die for nothing. Their deaths changed a civilization. Maybe that has to be enough." She left. Thexlon sat alone, understanding for the first time the true cost of his mistake. He had not just lost a war. He had forced an entire species to remember their capacity for violence, and in doing so, given the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. On Earth, life had returned to something resembling normalcy. The military had demobilized most of its wartime forces. Converted civilian ships returned to their original purposes. Colonies expanded again. But nobody pretended things were the same as before. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood before the memorial on Kepler 442, rebuilt from the ruins. 3,000 crystal pillars rose from the ground, each representing a life lost. The morning sun caught them, creating rainbows that danced across the memorial plaza. Today was the 5th anniversary of the attack. Thousands had gathered for the ceremony. Humans, yes, but also Vaxilor, representatives from dozens of species. The memorial had become something unexpected, a pilgrimage site. species came to honor the dead and remember the lessons their deaths taught. Webb stepped to the podium, looking out at the crowd. He saw Vaxilor civilians who had traveled across the galaxy to stand here and mourn humans they had never met. He saw young humans who had been children when the attack happened, now adults shaped by the war. He saw alien species watching with respect and in some cases fear. 5 years ago, Webb began, his voice carrying across the plaza. 3,000 people died here. They were miners, engineers, teachers, parents, children. They came to the stars seeking a better life. They found only death. Their murder changed everything. He paused, gathering his thoughts. The words he would speak next had been carefully considered, reviewed by Earth's government, and approved reluctantly. They were dangerous words, honest words. In the aftermath, humanity responded with violence that shocked the galaxy. We waged war with an efficiency that frightened ancient species. We demonstrated capabilities we had hoped never to use again. And when we won, we made a choice. We walked away. We helped our enemy rebuild. We showed mercy to those who showed us none. Webb looked at the Vaxilor representatives in the crowd. Many ask why. Why help those who attacked us? Why show restraint when we had every right to vengeance? The answer stands before you. These 3,000 pillars. Each represents a life that mattered. A person with dreams, hopes, people who loved them. We cannot bring them back, but we can ensure their deaths meant something. We can build a galaxy where such attacks become unthinkable. He pulled up a holographic display showing the current state of galactic affairs. Border disputes that had simmered for decades were suddenly resolved. Aggressive species reconsidering their territorial ambitions. Trade routes opened that had been closed for centuries, all because nobody wanted to be the next species to provoke humanity's response. This memorial is not just about remembering the dead, Webb continued. It is about remembering what their deaths taught us all. Humanity learned we cannot hide from our violent past. The galaxy learned that choosing peace does not mean accepting abuse. And together, we learned that even from tragedy, something better can emerge. A young Vaxilor female approached the podium, helped by her mother. Webb recognized her from the prepared program. Lixara, daughter of a Vaxilor soldier who died in the war. She had asked to speak and humanity had agreed. "My name is Lixara," the girl said in careful human language. "My father died fighting humans. He thought he was defending our people. He was wrong. The hegemony lied to him. They told him humans were a threat. After the war, my mother taught me the truth. She taught me about this place, about the people who died here. I came to say I am sorry. I am sorry for what my people did. I am sorry I cannot bring your families back." The plaza was silent. Webb watched the girl struggle with her emotions, her mother supporting her. Then something unexpected happened. Sarah Mitchell's husband, James, walked up to the podium. He had survived Kepler 442, been off-world during the attack. His wife and daughter had not been so lucky. For 5 years he had lived with that loss. He knelt before the Vaxilor child. "Your father was wrong," he said gently, "but you are not responsible for his mistakes. My daughter was your age. Her name was Emma. She loved to draw. She wanted to be an artist. I wish she could have met you. I think she would have liked you." He stood and pulled a small object from his pocket, one of Emma's drawings, preserved and protected. He handed it to Lixara. "Keep this. Remember that the people who died here were real, had dreams, mattered, and remember that your generation can build something better than what our generations destroyed." Lixara took the drawing with trembling hands. Her mother wept quietly, and across the plaza, humans and Vaxilor stood together, united in grief and hope. Webb concluded the ceremony with words that would be quoted for generations. "We built this memorial as a reminder, not just of what was done to us, but of what we became in response. We are not proud of our capacity for violence. We are ashamed we still possess it, but we will never apologize for using it to protect our own. Let this place stand as a promise. Humanity will always extend a hand in friendship first, but if you strike that hand, you will discover the fist we have kept hidden behind our backs." One mistake altered the galaxy. Let it be the last of its kind. The ceremony ended. Ships in orbit fired a salute, weapons flashing in sequence, but those who understood military signals noticed something. The salute pattern was also a demonstration. Human weapons remained active, tracking systems online, ready.